All right, we are back again with Mr. John Browning. My name is Doug Sandler from Turnkey Productions. John, welcome back to the podcast.
All right. Thank you.
All
It's
right, so
good to
let's
see you again.
yeah, it's good to be seen, and it's I feel like this month in Southern California, I'm spending most of my time on my own because JJ is in your neck of the woods in South Florida and enjoying all things Florida related, including the cold weather. There might have been some frost warnings in Florida. Is that true?
It is true. There's actually some frost warnings even down here in West Palm Beach. So hopefully we'll stick around 40 degrees because even that is too cold for me these days.
That's
And,
way
I, and
too
I'm
cold.
I'm a Chicago guy, so I have no desire to experience the cold again.
Yeah, just talk to your friends in Chicago, and they'll tell you that 40 degrees is like balmy compared to where they are right now in
They're probably out in
January. Or
shorts. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is probably near and dear to you if you are anywhere near retirement or if you're in retirement right now, and that is, are you or could you be withdrawing too much money while you're in retirement, or withdrawing it too soon? And you find you're at the end of your financial rope, and you still have a lot of life that's coming at you. So, how do we avoid this? Because the stakes are high right now. How do we avoid all this, John?
Yeah, the stakes are high. This is the rest of your life. And I think people, for some reason, don't realize that. And they take it for granted, especially when they're in sort of my age group in their 50s. They think they're still gonna live forever. Well, 30s are even worse, right? They're definitely gonna live forever, but it's it's just this thing that we don't think about,
Right,
or we
right.
think about but we just sort of put it on the back burner because, again, our zone of genius is whatever it is that we're doing. And see, I think about it all the time. I probably think about it too much. I get up in the morning, I'm thinking about the markets and how to invest and how the math works and all that.
But John, that's why you're my advisor, because I know you think about it all the time. That's why you think about it
There
all the
we
time.
go.
I'm
Exactly.
glad you think about it all. Much better you than me. Let's just say it that way.
Right. But then when you actually get to retirement, right, what do you actually withdraw? How do you do it? And the reality is, and people hate for me to say it, but the truth is that everybody's different, right?
Right, right.
However, let's try and give some people some basic sort of framework and
Sure.
rules and ways to think about it. My job is not to teach you what to think, it's how to teach you how to think.
Okay. All right. So let's hit them with some good advice. If they're how to not avoid, how to not withdraw too much in retirement.
Right. So, couple things. Number one of the most common things out there is with the 4% rule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, if you arguably, historically speaking, if you withdraw 4% in retirement and assuming you've saved enough, right, you'll be fine. Right. I mean, but again, it depends on how you invest and how conservative you are, how comfortable you are with the ups and downs of the markets and all of that. Again, this is a complex, not a complicated. It's worse than complicated. 4% works generally. The problem with that is it's overly simplistic
Okay.
because, number one, we're all different. Number two, when you're younger in retirement, frankly, you just retired. You've worked 30, 40 years and you retire. What are you going to do? Well, you're probably going to go have some fun. You probably have some plans. You're probably going to spend more. And one of the mistakes that I see is people get nervous and they don't spend enough.
Mm-hmm.
People laugh at me because I'm
Right.
a wealth manager. I'm like, no, go spend, go spend, go spend. You don't know if you got tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to have an injury that won't allow you to
Right.
climb
Right.
Mount Kilimanjaro or whatever it is that you want to do or travel. And frankly, when you're 75, 80 years old, most people are not going to want to walk all over Europe or whatever it is that floats your boat, right? That you like to do.
I could tell you from experience, my 92-year-old mom, she doesn't want to do anything other than just hang out and watch television in her house. I mean, and have lunch with her friends, and that's all good. But that doesn't require her withdrawing even 4% from her account.
Right. Exactly. So it's actually, in my opinion, okay, as long as you plan for it and plan how things are going to go, to withdraw significantly more than 4% in the early years of retirement and enjoy what you've worked for.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want people just, being, having to be a miser and not enjoy, especially those first several years of retirement. The other thing that happens is it tends to be a U curve. Those of you who are not watching on YouTube, I'm making a U shape with my finger. But towards like that, midpoint of retirement, let's call it, you're actually start to spend less because
Right.
you're
Right.
still healthy,
Right.
but you've done all the fun stuff you wanted to do. And now the fun stuff that you want to do is generally not as expensive.
Right.
And you kind of have that sort of those maybe really are the golden years in terms of monetarily. But then unfortunately, as we get a little bit more towards the old age, you end up with long-term care issues, which get very
Very
expensive.
expensive,
And we
very fast.
don't know when that's going to happen, but it probably will at some point. I think the latest stats are 78% of us are going to need
Wow.
some type of long-term care. Um, us meaning the 50-year-olds of the world, the mid 50s to 60-year-olds, um, just because we're living longer, but
Right. Right.
our knees still give out and things happen. And a lot of people have decided, what, long-term care insurance is too expensive. And I think they may be right in many cases, but there are other ways to prepare,
Right.
like with an annuity that has a long-term care insurance rider on it and doesn't really cost you anything extra. Things like that. There are other ways to do that. So keep in mind the sequence of your spending and what it's likely to be, and you never know for sure. It's another thing.
Okay. All right.
So
So tell me more. How do we what are we looking at the sequence of the money that we're withdrawing? Is that not an essential component of what money we should be taking out or not taking out? Is it the type
that's
of
right.
vehicles that we are in? Should we examine those? What's the best approach to take to know if, or we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know how long someone's lifespan is going to be. So how do we judge if we are taking out too much at this point
Yeah,
in retirement?
yeah. I think probably the two biggest mistakes that people make as they head into retirement, other than not spending enough and what we've already talked about, is they 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 may be not they may also be overdoing it on the pulling out, and that's what people are really afraid of. So they're afraid that if I withdraw 20, if you withdraw 20%, that definitely, in my opinion, could definitely be too much unless you really have a big nest egg. And like there's somebody out there that's very, very famous, Mr. Ramsey, that tells people pretty regularly 8 or 10% is absolutely fine to withdraw. Um,
But
that can be
it's
really dangerous.
isn't that it's got to be based upon a specific amount that you need, though? I mean, how can you just put a blanket over 8 to 10% and say you're comfortable with that if we don't know how long you're going to live. We don't unless there's specific vehicles that he's saying, hey, you can take 8 or 10% out of this particular vehicle. I'm not picking on Dave Ramsey. I'm just picking on all of the advice givers that are overly zealous with the amount of money that you can take out in retirement. I'm a super conservative guy, so I always want to know, hey, what's conservative that I can add to my Social Security that I'm going to have coming in the door so that I still feel like I'm not really attacking the principle. I mean, isn't it also, I don't want to go too far into the principle. I'd rather not go into the principle at all. Isn't that the objective?
And I think that's the most important thing you can think of, because that second mistake is not having enough cash flowing investments in your portfolio, and assuming the sort of the outdated idea out there that the only thing you can get cash flow from is dividend paying stocks, or treasury bonds or corporate bonds, which is debt instruments that are issued to the government or a company. And those are frankly only yielding these days maybe 6-7%. And
Mm-hmm.
they also move up and down like a lot, like more than they used to. They're just as volatile. If you look at the 5-year return on the 10-year treasury, it's actually negative
Mm.
over the past 5 years. a negative return because of how much the price has moved. So if you have to sell, you're going to be selling at a loss over 5 years. Now,
Wow.
the other mistake that people make is, well, the average amount that the S&P 500, everybody wants to listen, wants to mimic the S&P 500, which,
Yeah.
by the way, might not be a great idea because it's very overweighted to 10 large cap stocks. So you're not as diversified as you think. But the average return has been, I believe, somewhere around 10%, depending on which time period you measure it over. The problem is you can drown in a river that is 2 inches deep because you went into that one part of the river that was 10 feet deep and couldn't swim. And that's what happens is, it's fine if you happen to be a billionaire, like Dave has got plenty of money, right? And it doesn't hurt him so bad if he's withdrawing 10% of his funds, maybe because he's got so much of it.
Right. Right.
Somebody who just has enough and they have a couple bad years, and this is where sequence of returns comes in, and they don't have cash flow in so that they're not touching the principal, they could be in real trouble. What we try to do at Guardian is, if possible, if at all possible, we try to make it so that you are not ever dipping into principal or very, very little because we've got so much cash flow and we understand how you can create cash flow in a way that is maybe possibly not quite as as risky as some of the other instruments are out there, but it generates actually more cash flow into your portfolio.
Very interesting teaser right there. So, if there's somebody in our audience, I know everybody's scenario is slightly different than the other person that's listening to this episode. We don't know what your scenario is. Where do you start? Like, what questions do you ask, and what's the best way for somebody to try to figure out, well, what's the right thing for me to be able to do? So I'm making sure that when I get to retirement, I'm not taking too much money out too soon.
Yeah, I think you need to really ask the question, am I being too conservative? And there are some financial advisory firms that are so afraid of getting sued or whatever that they mandate a conservatism that I think is actually hurting the people that they are serving. And it's not that I don't understand that, but I would ask the question, how, you want to do the math. You ask the question, do I have enough cash flow coming in to actually support myself and my budget, the way my budget is now, and the way I expect my budget to be in retirement? Do I have enough cash flow to make that? Well, if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, we're going to have to use some of that principle. Okay, how exactly mathematically do we plan to do this?
Hmm.
And if there's not a real good answer, reach out to Guardian Rock, guardianrockwealth.com. Let us at least look at it and see if maybe we can do something a little bit different, maybe think outside the box from the old fashioned stuff that a lot of financial advisors are using today, and see if we can't do something about that for you without causing you undue sleepless nights because your portfolio is going up and down too much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's my feeling exactly. Let's let a guy like John, who and his team, who like to do this. He's good with the maths. let John let John hang out with the worry rather than you hang out with the worry. There's so many vehicles that you can get into without having to uh, overly stress yourself. So I know that John and his team will come up with something that's good for you. Okay, John. So this is the part where we get to tell them how to reach out to you to find out more information about what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to leave them with a nugget for maybe another podcast that's going to help them too. So you got to stay tuned. But if you go out to guardianrockwealth.com, there is a wealth of information there under the resources section first. Also, if you go to the contact us section, we are easy. You just click a link, you fill out just your name and a little bit of information. We're not looking to stalk you or anything else. And there's even a way to schedule some time directly on my personal calendar. It's not somebody who works for me. You actually talk with me, and I'm happy to do that. The other way is to just take out your phone, that cell phone you always have with you. Open the texting app and dial 321 421 5213 and the word life. Send that, and you'll get a text with a link to all kinds of information. And we promise we won't send you a text every other day or anything like that. We'll just send you the link. You can choose what you do with it. Lots of free information and also a link to my calendar again. And it's
Special.
also down in the show notes.
Yeah, if you don't know how to get to the show notes, you're going to follow all the instructions that John said. The easiest thing is just go to Chat GPT and say, "How do I find show notes on either a podcast or a YouTube episode?" And it will show you right there how to do that. Let's use AI to our benefit, everybody that's
There
in
you
our
go. You can
community.
actually type in, how do I get in touch with John Browning? And ChatGPT will actually tell you.
Yeah, well,
So
there's a couple of John Brownings. I've tried to do the John Browning,
true.
give me his phone number, and there's a bunch of other phone numbers that, or a bunch of other contact
That is
info that I
true.
end up
Yeah.
getting. But Guardian Rock Wealth and John Browning will get you there for sure. For those in our
Yeah.
listening community, check the show notes or go over to ChatGPT and figure it out from there. John Browning, thanks for sharing your expertise yet another week. See you again soon.
All right. And there's one last thing for everybody is that if you use all your assets, your number one asset is probably your home.
Oh,
If you're not
good teaser.
using your home as a dynamic asset instead of a static asset, that could be another reason you run out of money in retirement. So
All
we're going
right.
to talk about that in another episode.
That'll actually be the next episode. We're going to do that one too. So
All right, we'll do that one.
we'll see you guys soon. Thanks again.